and welcome to another week in our garden. It's sort of a hungover day today, but it's quite warm. We're in the bottom greenhouse and the temperature's showing 15 degrees Celsius at the moment, so it's lovely and warm in here. Now we've started down at the greenhouse and we're going to work our way up the garden to show you what I've been up to. Now, as you know, if you're in the UK anyway, you'll know that we had Storm Kira last weekend. Well, I've just nearly finished tidying up from her, but now we've got Dennis coming, which will probably put me some standing water on again. The standing water, it looks quite bad, but it's actually flowing through the garden. So apart from washing a little bit of the soil off, and it empties all the bark out the paths, there's no real damage except for the wetness of the land, which in a few days dries out anyway. But we'll show you that as we go up the garden, what we've been left with. Now we're in the greenhouse, as you can see. I'll just show you, I've brought the seedlings down out the propagator, I've hardened them up and then brought them down obviously. And I've nearly finished the potting on of the overwintered stock. I think there's maybe half a dozen pots still to do. Yeah. This is the sort of thing I bring down that's overwintered. They look terrible, but they're actually still alive. They'll be alright once I get them cleaned off and cut all the dead off and repot them up. They'll be fine. The big ones in the back I've had to put in these huge pots. These have been overwintered maybe for 3 years now. So if you can imagine what that's going to look like when it's grown on for the season. I still get one or two trying to flower, but I try to take the flowers off. These are the seedlings we brought down. There's the 2 trays of sweet peas, one slightly in front of the other, but that was set first. The lettuce little gem, that's ready for potting on now. So I'll get that done probably this afternoon or tomorrow. The tomatoes, they're fine. They was just an early set to get the ball on. If you think I only perhaps want 4 plants, the rest I'll pot up and pass on. The onions are doing great. They'll be potted on next week, I think. We'll put them into cell trays and then let them grow on a bit. And then keep them in here while they grow on, then harden them up, ready for putting out. The strawberry runners we took last year, I've brought down and potted those. Not much action yet, but as you can see, they are just beginning to put new leaves on, so they're doing fine. Broad beans are not showing, but as you can see, they're beginning to lift the compost a little bit, so they might be lifting the heads up now. Actually, they want watering. I'll water those in a bit. They'll be fine. The cuttings I've moved over where they can get a little bit more light. They're all doing fine. They're fine. They're still trying to throw a flower. Look, can you see it there? So I'll just nip those off. We don't really want flowers on them yet. So that's the progress in the bottom greenhouse. In the top greenhouse, the only thing that really is in there is the pots with the overwintered geraniums and fuchsias in that I'm bringing down and potting up in here. As soon as we can start up that end, we'll nip up, clean it out, and then we'll start actually planting in there as well. So we'll have 2 greenhouses going, one top, one bottom. Right, we'll get out on this garden and show you what I've been up to, okay? Now, we're outside now. I apologise for the noise from the road. I don't know if you can hear it, it's quite loud today. Now, I brought this old frame down here. It's only a mesh frame, but I'm hoping to use it. Once I've cooled some of the plants down, ready to go out, I can put them in there for hardening off and a little bit of storage away from the pigeons. So we'll keep that as a hardening up bay and probably grow some of the lettuce in it. Now if at some stage I can get some perspex or some glass, I'm hoping to change this mesh frame into a glass or perspex frame. It'll be a lot warmer and it'd be more beneficial for the greenhouse if it has a frame next to it. Okay, let's move on. Now this would be plot D. I don't know if you can see, but this was really flooded with Kira, and I've just started to break the surface a little bit. As you can see, there's a lot of debris on it to clean up yet, and the soil over there is still packed down with the weight of the water, so that will want digging again. This side has still been underwater, but the garlic has been flooded, I think it's three times now, and it's still with us, so I'm very pleased with the garlic. It'll be interesting to see what the bulbs will be like at harvest after all that wet. If you can remember, we did the apple tree, we put the potassium sulfate on. Well, that's long gone, that'll be well down the road now, so that'll have to be done again. This is the plot where we're going to grow the onions. It has been prepared and underdug with manure. It is tightening down a little bit with the weight of the water, but onions do like a firm bottom, if you like, so we'll leave that as it is and just keep the top, keep hoeing the top to keep the weeds down, but let the soil still stay firm underneath, so that's not too bad. Now this is plot C. As you can see, it's quite, I've hoed the top and raked it with the 4-prong rake just to break the top up a little. This frame we'll leave here for a little while because it's got some spring onions growing in there, some guardsmen which are growing quite happily, so we'll leave the frame in situ. These are a few spring onion guardsmen, they're called. They seem to have taken the flooding quite well. They're still very wet underneath, but I'm sure they'll be fine. They'll get a bit more warmth and they'll soon shoot away. Now this plot where we're still on C, but now what I do is I dig it over when it's first cleaned a crop, and then if you look over there I spread the manure on top, and then when that's been leveled out I put straw on top of the manure, and then I dig the whole lot over so it looks like this here. And once it looks like that, I keep raking it now and again with the 4-prong rake, which I'll show you shortly, and that actually breaks the soil down into a nice crumb so we can use it for planting. Now this is plot B. This will be for the potatoes and the outdoor tomatoes. I have manured it and strawed it and dug it all in, as you can see. 3 plots and a half a plot has been done. Now Storm Kira actually took the mesh cover off these brassicas, and I've actually blown them over. I tried to stand them up and heel them in, but they've just blown over again. There's a chance we might lose them when Dennis comes. If the worst comes to the worst with the brassicas, I feed them to the chickens. They love brassicas. I have such a job to get the holly for the holly rings, what we donate to the village. I've decided to put a few in myself. These are actually cuttings that we raised in the fruit cage. I don't know if you can remember when we put them in, but they're running quite nice and they're growing well. And there's a bit of rosemary there. I want to bring the rosemary up like a column of rosemary. That would look quite nice just there. And if we keep them into a tight column, they'll not be protruding onto the plots. Now we're on plot A, as I said. Now I've broken it down to 4, as you know. Now this quadrant I'm going to try and grow some root crops in it. It is quite loose soil just there, and I will add some sand and some old compost in the next time I fork it over. In this quadrant here is for the Brussels sprouts. So there's no manure being put into it. It was dug early, so it's got a chance to firm down, but I did put quite a bit of straw into it just to open it up a bit because it was a bit sticky. Likewise, this plot and this plot. Now this one has been prepared for the cauliflowers, etc. It's been deep dug and manured very low down, and then forked over at the top and then left to settle to firm up. This one has had a similar treatment to what the Brussels have had. It's just been forked over, some straw put on top, then that has been dug in and then left to firm up, because we really need the brassica beds quite firm. If you think that the brassicas in that frame, if they're not in solid, that's what happens, they'll just blow over. Those poor things didn't stand a chance in that huge gale, but you know what I mean. If you don't get your Brussels in firm, over they'll go. This is what I use most of this time of year. Now it's been dug and then the straw put on and that's gone in, all I do then is just keep lightly pushing this 4-prong rake through like that. Nothing too hard, not digging in, just staying to the top. And it slowly, as you can see, after you've done it a few times, you're not only levelling the plot, you break it up and it'll finish up like that plot there, look, lovely broken down. That's the plot that I started on this year, and I've raked it several times with this rake. As you can see, even as wet as it is today, it is breaking it. There you are, not deep, just breaking the top. That lets the air in. If we get the air in the top, then the water can drain from the bottom and then it'll dry out a lot better. And also, if you leave the top a bit rough, it slows the wind down at the top, and then it actually gets warmer down there. So, and like we saw last week, it's only 4 degrees this soil, so nothing's going to happen yet. Now on our way up, we'll just have a quick glance into the fruit case. Not a lot happening, but we'll look anyway. Now we're at the fruit case. We haven't put the net on it yet, it's far too early. One thing to watch out for though, can you see the buds are now beginning to swell? And so you have to keep your eye on them now, because the blackbirds and thrushes will actually come and pick these buds off. The little devils for it. There's the currants, doing very well now. Gooseberries are budding up as well. They're all doing well, I'm quite pleased with them. It's got a good manuring on it, that'll be all washed in soon. I don't want to dig it in just yet, it's far too wet underneath, because this is very clayey up here, so we'll leave it until perhaps later towards the spring. We'll just fork the top over. The other thing I need to do after the storm at the weekend, I shall put some potassium around them. I shan't put it on until the storm's been, else it'll be another like we did with the apple tree, it will just washed away. So we'll do that next week when the storm's gone through. And I do believe I need to put a frame up, because we have a blackberry over there and a loganberry that need frames, so we'll have to get one of those made as well, all before we put the net on for the summer. We're at the blueberries in their frame, and as you can see, they're pushing leaves out already, so we don't want too much fierce weather, although they are quite well protected here. If we do have some very bad weather coming, I shall just throw a fleece over it and let it just droop onto it, just to give it that little bit of protection. But otherwise they'll be fine. They've been out here all winter, and we had this morning we was white over with frost, and yet they're still putting leaves out, so they must be alright, but I'll keep an eye on. Even the blackberry that seeded itself for us is actually showing leaf as well, but I think this is quite hard. I hope it is. It should be alright. We'll give it a feed of potassium when we do the fruit bushes to give it a good boost, and the blueberries. We'll just pop in the shed and we'll show you what we're setting this week. Now we've popped in the shed, it's a little bit warmer in here. The temperature is 9.6 Celsius. That'll do fine. What I've done this week, I've moved the potatoes from that side of the shed to this side of the shed because the light levels are getting higher now and the days are warmer and longer. So I've moved them to this side so they can get on with their sprutting. If it gets like last night where we forecast quite hard frost, I just come down and pop a sack over them, and then I take it off in the morning once the sun's got up. But it's not too bad in here anyway. But it wouldn't be advisable to not cover them up. Once they get that little tender shoot on, to have a cold night and lose that shoot, so they'll be fine. Looking through them, they're all sprutting nicely. Nothing really to worry about yet, but just cover them up if it's cold. Now, yesterday, or perhaps the day before, was it the day before? Anyway, the fertilizers we ordered have arrived. These are the ones that's arrived, so now I can get the trees finished. The sulfate of potash that all got washed away anyway, so we'll do that again. And I also got some calcified seaweed meal just to put on the garden as well. I get these from Proctor's, as you can see, quite a good firm. These are the seeds I'm going to pop in tomorrow while the weather's bad. There's some tomato Gardener's Delight, tomato Mountain Magic, tomato Cocktail Crush, and the first setting, this is the first setting of the cauliflower for summer. These two tomatoes, Cocktail Crush and Mountain Magic, are hopefully blight resistant. They'll be going in the top greenhouse anyway, but we'll see how they go. I'm also setting the Brussels sprouts. I want 20 plants of Brussels sprouts this year, and that will be enough for us. Cabbage Sherwood, I always grow that, a wonderful summer cabbage, makes lovely coleslaw. And I got 2 packets of free seed from Brown's Leek Stocky. It's a hybrid, so we'll see how they do. I'll set those seeds tomorrow, so that'll be it this week. It's a short one for you this week, but you've seen the garden and you've seen the progress. Now, many thanks for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing, we do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you next week after the storm. Take care everyone, especially in the UK. Cover yourselves up well. Make sure everything's tied down and you'll be fine. See you next week then. Bye now.